Elijah, not just for the unions, but also for the Latino. There has been a lot that I've experienced, a lot that I've seen, a lot that I've witnessed, and this is just great to be here with all of you to be able to share some of this information. And I think I need to put my phone on mute.
Well, you know what? What does it look like to be like a democratic strategist or like just a political strategist just in general?
It's interesting because it brings up a lot of different opportunities. To be a strategist, if your heart is not in the right place, it's a perfect opportunity for many open doors to open up, doors that can lead away from God, doors that will be open for power, for influence. And that's why it's important as I mentor young men and young women that are getting involved in this arena. I've learned not to bring them on board right away to get a feel for them, for who their families are, to get a feel for what they're all about. Because once you start making a name for yourself, then that's when so many different opportunities come up, and it's easy to sell your soul. But it's difficult because I've actually faced death threats. I've had death threats, not just to myself, but to my family, because some of the issues that I talk about. And those are some of the issues I wanted to share with you today, because I've been asked by the media. You have no idea how many people have been wanting to hear this story, but I've always waited to say, you know what, it's got to be God's time. When God wants us to share it, then this is going to be it. And obviously, we weren't supposed to be here today as your guest, but the way the Lord worked things out, the timing is perfect. And I think it's important for us to be here today and share this information with you guys.
Yeah, we're so grateful to have you guys on. I mean, it's just amazing how God works, and just seeing it through our organization and how we started it and where we are now. So that's amazing. But thank you so much for both being on here.
You're welcome.
I know we're having a little bit of an echo. I don't know if
Yeah,
you can hear that.
I'm working on that
Okay.
right now. This show is always a work in progress, but
Hey, let's flow.
Yes,
Wait. Hey, you gotta have
Yeah, I'm
fun.
working on it right
That's important. If you're able to have fun while you're being involved in politics, it's because it's what you love. When you stop having fun, that's when it becomes a problem. And I don't know when you guys want me to go into the whole Democratic Latino political machine.
I think we can start with that now. I mean, if you can just jump
I
right
mean, we
in.
could keep it
right?
pretty casual for
Yeah.
just a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we could totally
No, I
do
do
that.
super appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, you know what? I could just quickly talk about something an event that I went to this week, or this past week. On the weekend, on Saturday, I went to an Asian cultural festival at Pierce College. So because this month is Asian Heritage Month, and they were having that at Pierce College, at the community college. And we were there able to get some interviews. We had some interviews. I think we had around 9 or 10 interviews with people, and different people ranging from, older people to very young people my age. And I think the youngest one we got was, I think he was 15. So we got a pretty good range of people and different ideas of what they were thinking. A lot of them were Asians. That's what we were that's what I was focusing when I was out there getting interviews from different people. So I focused on mostly them, but I did also choose out one girl. She was, she was white appearing, right? And she was actually in a Lolita kind of costume. And Lolita, I don't know what specific country in Asia that's from, but it's kind of sort of a trend. And they put on like really cute outfits, and it's basically cosplay. They're cosplaying something, and you see that, and a lot of people do that. If they're like into like I guess anime or sort of that sort of world in Asia. But I had a really good interview with her because we were also talking about cultural appropriation and how that her wearing Lolita, some people have told her that that's not okay. She also wears a kimono. She's part of like an LA club that wears kimonos, and she was saying how people tell her that she's not allowed to wear that because she's white. Right, because she's being a cultural appropriator or something like that. But she's saying how she wasn't like wearing it in a disrespectful manner. She wasn't sexualizing the kimono. She was wearing it very respectfully and how they would wear it. And so she was saying, there's no problem with wanting to learn about other cultures and trying to learn about them and just have appreciation for what that culture is. And I think a lot of people like kind of blur the line, whether it's like cultural appropriation and then you get canceled for like wearing something that you're not supposed to, right?
Well, I think,
You know?
I think it's kind of interesting that that happened because we're in an era right now where you have men that want to be women and women that want to be men, and that's acceptable.
Right, yeah.
And why is this? I mean, she's not doing it in a disrespectful way. So I think that's interesting that, you know, some people would take that analogy when the other part is acceptable. Why is one acceptable and the other isn't?
Right.
Then maybe we should tell people stop wearing ponchos if you're not a Mexican, right?
Right. Well, like, why are you wearing that? You know?
Hey, you know, to each his own, you know, and you know, Marianne is right, you know, the times that we're living in, and I do believe this, though, we are living difficult times, you know, but we were born for this time. You know, like I told you young ladies when I first met you, going back, we had a missing link to the puzzle. God has been building this puzzle of leadership that has surrounded me for the past 20 years. I don't say 30 years because of ones going back 30 years, they're lost. You know, whether it be Senator Padilla, Congressman Tony Cardenas, the rest of them, all these guys that I grew up with. So going back 20 years, I started to realize, you know, that God was just building this team. But what was he building it for? And for what time? And I do believe that this is a time because the missing link that we had was your generation. You know, and you two young ladies, what you bring to the table, the different perspectives that you guys bring, and the way you're able to sit here and have a conversation with each other and not agree 100%, but still be able to smile and laugh and walk out and you know, and either be friends and just continue. But society today doesn't want that. And that was part of the plan going back to the Latino political machine. You know, so when we're ready for that, I'll break it down to exactly what their plan was.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think it's very good that we have our testimony, you know, like biblically speaking, it's like that's what the power we do have is our own personal experience and stuff. And got some good news. It sounds like the technical problems have gone away, but just recapping, thank you. And don't be afraid to let us know if that happens because we want to make sure that everyone is enjoying this and experiencing it in a way that it should be. But anyway, I don't know, like, Ellie, you want to share some of your personal testimony? I don't think you've really done that yet. I mean, like, why do you feel like you got involved in politics, you know?
Oh, why I felt like I got involved in politics? I guess we could do that really quickly. I mean, well, I guess we could start with the fact that I went to a school. I went to, like, a magnet school, which was very... I guess you could say very left-leaning. They were a magnet school, one of the top 10 at the time. And for those of you who have been following for a little while, you know that I'm now homeschooled. I've been homeschooled since 3rd grade, but this school that I went to for 2 years, so for 1st and 2nd grade, and that school is very left-leaning. We had a lot of like watching polar bears and the ice caps melting and a lot of those things.
Yeah.
And then we also had things like
Must be LAUSD, right?
yes.
Okay, lucky guess.
And then there was like this paper we had to write about fossil fuels and whether it was better to do like other electricity sort of things and then replace it with fossil fuels. And I was actually one out of my whole entire class. There was actually 2 of us that were the only people who actually said that fossil fuels was probably better than all the electric stuff that they were, you know, trying to usher in. And it was very interesting. A lot of my classmates were like, "Well, do you hate the planet?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Wait, I thought that fossil fuels would actually help give food to the plants. That's what I was thinking about, and that's what I based a lot of my stuff on the paper, which is, you know, very much going against what the whole entire classroom was saying. So even then, even at a very young age, I was totally going the opposite direction of what my classmates thought of.
Yeah.
But fast forward, I'm getting homeschooled now. My mom she's obviously helping me through the curriculum. I mean, that's what you do, your parents involved. And then she would show me a lot of like PragerU videos, which are 5-minute videos that you can find online.
Yeah,
and they're just really good educational videos that don't have one like political bias or another, but it just presents you with the real facts and the things that you need to know about certain issues. And you know, I watched all those videos and I was like, okay, this is crazy. This is really cool stuff. And that kind of influenced how I went through life. And having conservative principles and values, but I mean that wasn't. I still had
Yeah.
a lot of pushback from my relatives.
Yeah.
Most of them, like closer relatives, like uncles, are very left-leaning. And so I had a lot of pushback there, but that was one of my first taste of debating people was with my own family themselves at a very, very young age.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it's very interesting. And then ever since then, I would always be involved. That just to get my feet in the water, and that's eventually where I'm here now.
Awesome, awesome. God is
Yeah.
good.
No, and that's true because it's it's just funny because that is a good way to like come from, you know, okay, I already stand out at my school, like it doesn't matter, you know. I mean, I feel like being young and standing out, although, you know, PragerU, speaking of them, they really seem to like take action and standing
Yeah.
out. Like, aren't you involved in Prager?
Yeah, I
Force?
do a lot of Prager Force stuff. Not as much in the recent past year, but I'm super active
Yeah.
in like their social media and people there that they very much know me, and I know the people who work at the organization. So I'm pretty close with them too. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's great.
Well, so Benny, tell us about kind of what, you know, I mean, like why jumping into 180? Like just give your explanation of like, you know, what was it about 180 that made you feel like it could speak on, and like how does it mesh with everything that you're doing right now?
Well, what I realized is as I was going out to different meetings and, you know, being asked to speak and, you know, just going out throughout the state of California, over the past 4 years, I realized that the majority of the people there, that my wife and I were probably the youngest ones there, and I'm 59 years old, you know, and I see people 59, 70, 80 years old in the audience, and I'm thinking, something's missing here. Because once this generation dies off, who's going to be left to carry on? You know, and I realized that Gen Z, your guys' age group, which pretty much 16 to 24, something like that,
Yeah.
you know, we needed to tap into that. So I've been praying on it for quite some time. I was praying on it for years, believe it or not. And I didn't want to say, hey, you come do this or you come do that, because we got a lot of family. We could have got our nephews and nieces, but I said, no, it's got to be God-led. So we just waited. And then that's when God brought you guys into the picture.
Yeah.
You know, and when I heard you speak and I heard your stories, your testimonies, I said, that is exactly the piece that has been missing. And that's when I knew that this was a God thing, you know, and it pays into exactly what we're doing. It plays perfectly because what people don't understand is the plan for the Latino Democratic Party, and not just Latino, not just Democrats either. The plan for politicians in power, the people in power, was to take three very serious topics or issues out of the equation. God, family, and country. Think about that.
Yeah.
Remove God out of the picture was the first thing. Think about the rainbow. When did the meaning of the rainbow start to change? Go back in years. Then you think about the next move was the Holy Bibles in hotels. Remember, you might be too young. You probably weren't born yet. They started slowly pulling Bibles out of the hotels. That's when I realized, when I was a part of the leadership, what their plan was actually, what it is they were trying to execute. So once you move God out of the picture, then what falls next? The family.
Yeah.
Because you move the fathers out of the picture, out of the equation, or the mother out of the equation, single family homes or no parents at all. Now you create chaos. Now you have drug addiction. Now you have kids who don't have parents, don't have no guidance, you know, and they get into drugs, they get into alcohol. They need a place to live. The welfare program, the government benefits off of all of this. You know, they benefit off of these kids going on the welfare system and depending on the government to survive. So it all plays a part because the politicians who are in charge, I always tell people, if you want to know the truth about a politician, follow the money.
Yeah.
Look at their campaigns and who contributes to their campaigns and who they work for. Because what happens is there's a lump sum of money. Let's say a congressman. Let's go back to Pacoima, where I grew up. I grew up in Pacoima, Northeast San Fernando Valley. And growing up in the Mecha movement, we always blamed, excuse me for saying this, but it was the truth back then, we always blamed the white man for our failures. So that's when we put a political plan together, to a 24-year plan to run for every level of government. And not just every level of government, but also the courts and also in the schools, you know, to take control and change the narrative to start to push the plan.
Yeah.
So when we did that, a few years after having our team built, having pretty much someone in every level of government, we had a private meeting. And at this private meeting, there's one man that controls them all. And remember this, he's a lobbyist and a developer. So I said, gentlemen, we were going to address 5 issues. And this was a Latino Democratic Party. Remember when I say this: gang violence, teenage dropout, illegal immigration, the abuse in the welfare system, and all the gang violence, right? But illegal immigration was a top issue for the conservative Democratic Party way back when as well. But once we got these individuals elected into office, they realized that there was money to be made.
Yeah.
So when I addressed them at a meeting, I said, hey, gentlemen, well, now we have everybody at every level of government, but yet things have gotten worse. So we can't blame the white man anymore for our failures. We have to take on our own responsibilities, because it's the white. If we said we always blame the white man, but now it's all of us in these positions. So the one man that controls them all, he says, Benny, let me ask you 3 questions. And at this time, I was the elected vice president for SEIU Local 99. He says, number 1, he says, if we solve all these issues you're talking about, what issues will our candidates run on the next time they run for office?
Yeah.
Number 2, do you realize how much money comes into our city and our states because of the problems we're dealing with? And number 3, because I was a union vice president, do you realize how many jobs it creates? So when I say follow the money, this is what I mean. Gang violence was a big issue in Pacoima, in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. $10 million line item that goes into to deal with that issue. There's an organization that gets that amount of money to deal with it. Things have gotten worse. But when you realize, when you follow the money, you look at all their executive board and all of their staff, the money goes into the organization, but when it comes back time for re-election, guess who gets the majority of the donations? The politicians.
Yeah.
So the money goes back. So it's a revolving door.
Yeah.
So it's a way for them. So if they solve these problems, think about what they said. You know, what issues will our candidates run on? To me, I'd rather vote for you because you solved the problem, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what I would think.
But that's not what they do, right? I mean, that's you think it's common sense. So,
Yeah.
so that days, that was probably 19 years ago when I decided, you know what, that's it. I told them right there, from here on out, I'm going to do everything I can to expose you guys and destroy you guys. That was 19 years ago.
Yeah.
It's taken years to finally get the message out.
Well, and it's gotten so much worse too, because 19 years ago, I was like a little kid, and I don't remember things being this in your face. Like nowadays, it's just like obvious. I don't even know if there anyone like actually acknowledges it as propaganda, but that's just what it seems like. It's obviously is. They're having like gay relationships on Disney shows now. It's just like. That wasn't around even when I was a kid. Like 19 years ago, I was like 3 years old, right? So like it's gotten so much worse since then,
And you're right on point. Miriam, you mentioned something the other day when you were at the dentist office, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a story.
Really?
Story time.
So I was at the dentist's office, and I was sitting there waiting for them to come in, and meanwhile I was on my phone, and they had the Cartoon Network on.
Yeah.
And I can hear the Cartoon Network on as I'm like kind of messing with my phone.
Yeah.
And a couple of things happened. One is there was a commercial on. It was like a Sesame Street with characters.
Oh my goodness.
And
Okay.
it was about the vaccine. And it was like an adult character, like, I don't know, it was like a Big Bird character. I don't really follow Sesame Street. And then like a baby, like a young toddler or something. And they were talking about the vaccine and about it
Yeah.
being safe and all of that. And I'm thinking to myself, why is this on a cartoon channel?
Yeah.
These kids don't need to be involved with any of this.
They don't need
Yeah,
to like
for
Yeah,
real.
this
Oh
is,
my
this
goodness.
goes through the parent. The kids should not deal with any of it. This is not
Yeah.
kid appropriate. So that was the first thing. So I was just shocked because I don't watch really TV very much.
Yeah.
And so the next thing was, as I'm sitting there, the cartoon came on.
This is interesting.
And so as the cartoon came on, they were talking about the retinol in your eyes, I guess. And they were saying something that he means like retinol, not rectum, like kind of saying that.
Weird.
And then I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, did I just hear this on a cartoon right now? And I just was so shocked because I don't really watch much TV, and to hear that on the Cartoon Network channel,
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe what I just heard. I was just like, oh my goodness, like this is just so in your face nowadays. It's like there's no shame in the game anymore.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's,
yeah.
it's just really disturbing what's happening and how our children are being brainwashed and indoctrinated at such a young age.
Well, and it's been a slippery slope kind of, because when I was a kid, they were like halfway to that, just in a lot of different categories. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I remember growing up and not necessarily having a problem with it or anything, but I also at the same time I did grow up kind of liberal, like I was more feminist and stuff like that, and that's just because that was my family. And it was funny too because I lived in Colorado Springs for a while, which is like an army town, and when I was a kid, I remember being the person who like was against everyone else with how liberal I was, because I went to such a conservative school. That's Colorado Springs, but so like when I had my like 180 shift moment, it was like
Amen.
it was not at all like I didn't want to do that. But it also came from a place of feeling kind of almost humiliated that I was going back on so many previous beliefs, and I think that's a lot of like people are kind of experiencing, like, oh, I don't want to be one of those pro-lifers, you know what I mean? Like, I hear people say that, and I'm just like, okay, well, just, like, get away from me. You're annoying me. But, and even right now, like, speaking out, it's just like, I'm always like, oh, man, like, who knows what kind of, like, twisted thing people are gonna get from what I'm trying to say, like, my beliefs and stuff. I don't know. How do you deal with it, Ellie? Like, generally, I mean, because you face backlash online, right? Like,
Well, you know what? I see it online, but I don't see it directly towards me quite yet. But I have this mentality that because I mean, there's thousands of comments coming in, so they probably like there's a chance that there is like at least one comment out there already about who I am and what I'm doing.
yeah.
But there's just so many comments that are coming in on like social media and things like that like
Yeah,
the first
I
time
mean,
I like if I ever find one, I said to myself, I told this to my parents the other day, I was like, I'm going to frame it and put it up on my bedroom wall.
yeah. Well, I've gotten a few. I've gotten people who just said like, "Oh, good for you. Aren't you glad you had the choice to keep your baby?" And I was just like, "I'm sorry, what? Like that's like offensive to say about my child." Like, oh, it's just so annoying because it's just like, I don't know. I'm just kind of beyond arguing. I'm beyond arguing the logic behind against abortion. It's just like, it's not something I'm interested in anymore. I'm kind of burnt out about it. I mean, but there's other ways that we can go about it, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be, like, I don't know, name some other ways that we can go about it other than just arguing.
Well, I mean, just placing doubt in the person themselves. I mean, like poking holes in their arguments themselves. Like maybe asking really hard questions that they're going to have to go back and look and be like, okay, you know what? I actually don't have a very good answer
Well,
for that.
it's good to hear that people still believe in arguing, I guess, because you sound pretty optimistic about it. But I don't know.
I mean, just talking to people themselves and I just talk to people regularly. It's not even like an actual debate. It's just bringing up some important, points.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think the long-term consequences is what a lot of people, the young generation, doesn't understand. And I'll say this for the first time in public. I had a child that was aborted before I had any of my other kids. And the long-term effects of that is devastating. It wasn't until the Lord actually called me and gave me freedom from that. But I think young men today, if they understood the long-term consequences that they're going to be facing by making a decision to abort a child, it's devastating.
Yeah.
It can destroy you. If you don't have a strong foundation around you, that can destroy you.
Yeah.
But thank God that He had a different purpose for me, and I'm able to speak about this without breaking down in tears anymore. Because before it would be that. Now it's like, hey, Lord, you know what? The Lord made it very clear to me that child is with me up there in heaven, and I'm okay. One day I will see that child. But for those of you young men out there, this is your time. Think about this. If you're going to get into a relationship, you're getting into a relationship for one reason, and it should only be for one reason at all. Let me back up. I have a son, my youngest son. Won't say his name, but he's my youngest one. He's 27 now, and he just started dating. Years ago when he was 19, 6'3", awesome, handsome kid. And I said, son, what's going on? We need to have a talk. I don't see that you're dating. Is there something we need to talk about? He goes, no, Dad. He says, My whole reason for dating is because I eventually want to date a woman that I'm going to marry and build a family with. Right now, I don't have a foundation, I don't have a career, and until I have that, then I'll start dating because that's when I'm looking for my wife.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this kid was 19 years old thinking this way. And I said, he's right on point. You know, today what happens is, and I'm not just speaking today, this has been going on for years, you know, especially for you young ladies, there's young men, all they want is one thing.
Yeah.
But the young men, for you young men that are out there right now listening, I will tell you this. One day, God willing, you will have a family. And every child, that female that is in your possession at this moment, how you treat her as a queen or you take advantage of her, one day you're going to have children. And I'm telling you, it comes around. It comes around and it'll attack your own children.
Oh,
Your
man.
own children will deal with so much of that suffering. So
Yeah.
think about these decisions before you make that. Respect the woman, you know,
Yeah.
because marriage, you know, is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So this is a time for these young men to, you got to man up. Like they
Yeah.
say, wife up, you know, and take responsibility, you know, be responsible for your actions. You know, enough of these people walking around with these little canes, you know, I got a cane to lean on, you know, just break them, you know, break them. There's no
Yeah.
excuse for being a victim. That victim mentality's got to go,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Well, and also just in general, like, you know, I think this is one of the like talking points that often collapses, but like, you know how it's like Latinos naturally like have bigger families, more family values. I kind of see that clashing with like liberal movements because it's like, you know, you say that if you're a minority, you're automatically like liberal, you know? And I think there's that stigma that you have to fight against too, because family values is truly like, that's just, for me growing up, it was like, family is everything, you know? And I had all these cousins, you know, and we always went to Catholic church, and it was just always we were all very rooted in our family values. But it's funny because most of my family is also very democratic, so.
But you know what? The Democratic Party was very conservative. When I was a part of that leadership, it was all about family. You know, God, family, and country. They truly believed it.
Yeah.
But like I said, you know, I can't say it was the Latino political machine that changed the agenda, but I know they were a big part of it because they're the leaders in the party right now.
Yeah.
You may not see them on camera, but trust me, what they're doing behind the scenes is they're controlling and they're trying to change the narrative and they're trying to change history.
Yeah.
Like Cesar Chavez. You know, I asked people, hey, do you think Cesar Chavez was a Democrat or Republican? Most people would answer he was a Democrat. No,
Yeah.
he was a Republican and conservative. He was a veteran, you know, and I know that because growing up working in the fields in Stockton, Lower Modesto, picking cucumbers when I was 6 years old. You know, my family was a part of that movement. But now, to fit the narrative, now they're trying to change that history where he was pro-illegal migration. You know, he was a hardcore Democrat. And the same thing with Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's sad, but we're not going to allow that. That's why we started the Chi Americanos.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
we're
absolutely.
getting the truth out there. So,
Yeah.
Chicano
Now,
movement.
I know that so Cesar Chavez, he was against illegal immigration, right? As you were stating, and I mean today we're seeing almost an invasion at the border right now. I mean the U.S. I mean I don't know if you guys know, but Title
tell
42
us.
is currently going to be. I think it's going to expire May 11th, I believe. Now I'm not sure if anybody knows what Title 42 is, but it basically would. Was put in place during COVID by the Trump administration, and this was to basically to help prevent, the coronavirus spreading. So what they would do is they get the illegal immigrants, send them back. They would just catch them, send them back. That's what they would do. And that's going to be expiring on May 11th. And so you could probably imagine the effect that that's going to have. But in preparation for that, we're having tons of migrants come to the border.
Yeah.
I mean, the U.S. Border Patrol Chief Raul Ortiz, right? He tweeted a couple days ago that 11,260 migrants are known to have crossed the border per day, and of those, over 8,000 of them have been taken into custody. So around 26,000 in total, and then while over 2,000 of them are classified as known gotaways, making that
And
over 7,000.
I heard about that, and it said that it was something like like the in order to get a trial, it was going to be like 2 or 3 years. So like there's not a point, like that's why they were saying to just like legalize them, you know, because there were so many like.
Well, it's very interesting because we're definitely seeing when the migrants, what they'll catch them, they'll give them that trial date, and then they'll just leave them, they'll drop them off in the United States.
Yeah.
And they'll just go wherever they'd like, and when that trial date comes, do you really think they're probably going to show up? I mean, I don't think it's likely.
Well, it's
but
like 2 years. Like, I mean, what am I even doing in 2 years? I
gosh,
don't know. Like,
Well, I think recently I was just kind of reading myself. 27,000 just crossed like the El Paso, Texas border. That was just recently. And the thing that's kind of strange to me, a few things are strange. One is that the budget for the immigration problem that we're having right now has increased by 50%. It is a 4.2 billion budget. $4.2 billion budget.
Jeez,
So
that's a lot.
50% increase.
Ka-ching.
And we're having more illegals cross more now than ever. As far as Title 42, what I find strange also is that we've had more illegals come across the border in the last few years than any other time in history.
That's crazy.
Why is
And
that?
so,
Why is
so,
that?
so how is this a Title 42 even working? Because if it expires, what is it going to even do? Because the border is completely open. I mean,
Right, it is.
Everybody's showing it over and over, and the Biden administration keeps trying to insist that it's not. And you see video after video of just craziness happening at our border. Not to mention
That
that
is wild.
that there's an organization called the Human Rights First. They identified 13,000 kidnappings. So human trafficking, and
Yeah,
not
that's
to
awful.
mention, all the fentanyl that's coming across. The gangs that are coming across. So the borders are just completely open. So I'm not really sure what Title 42 is even going to do. How much more worse can it be? I really don't know. It makes no sense. Where is this $4.2 billion going? Because obviously they're not doing anything with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a sad, and I have a personal story. We were talking about it earlier when I was running for Congress in 2016, and I was still a Democrat back then. I ran for Congress against Tony Cardenas to send a message to the Democratic Party and to the leadership, because people are saying, Benny, you helped build this machine. Why are you challenging what we consider to be the head of the snake? He's the guy that raises the most money. I grew up with the guy, I have no respect for him anymore. But I decided to run for Congress, and my platform was very conservative because I ran on what was known as a conservative Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And when it came to the border, I was speaking to a group they were from Guatemala and El Salvador. There was probably about 300 people there. And I got to speak to them, and they asked me what my position was on securing the border. So I gave them my spiel, and at the end of the meeting, a father comes up to me, and he says, Benito, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the position that you're taking. And I said, okay, explain to me. He goes, I came from El Salvador. I brought my wife, and my 4-year-old, and my 5-year-old daughter. He says, we got to the border. By the time we got to the border, they separated us, the men in one van, the women and children in other vans. They took the men to a house. They gave them a backpack that was filled with drugs. And they said, here's the phone number. When you get these drugs across the border, you call this number, you get your wife and kids back. Okay, if I'm in that situation, guess what? I'm putting on that backpack, and I'm going to try to get across the border. I'm going to call that number to get my family.
Yeah.
Guess what happened? He got across the border. He's never seen his children.
Wow.
Never seen his wife. People don't
That's
know.
awful.
Today, the cartels are making more money on human trafficking than they are drugs.
Wow.
Think about that.
Oh man.
Now, is it a Democratic issue? Is it a Republican issue? In my personal opinion, no, it's not.
Yes.
This is an issue that the people have to stand up and fight. And I say that because, and people may disagree with me, because both parties had control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, where you have an opportunity to fix it. But once again, there's a voter base that people want to control. So why fix the issue? So it's going to be up to the people. Now, you see the shirts that we're wearing. What do I do? I come to speak like to a group like yourself and other groups. I'm not trying to convert anybody to become a Democrat or Republican or independent.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just plant the seed to save a soul.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to save. We're trying to save souls.
Exactly. And that's, I think, also how I've been trying to approach it as well, as like, and that's kind of where like the testimony like comes in, because those are stories, and that's the truth. And it's like, stories are very powerful, obviously. You know, I mean, that story, like, paints a whole picture that's just like, we need to do something about that, you know?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think that's wonderful.
And you mentioned something about like today everything is just thrown in your face.
Yeah.
Well, and what most people don't know, but I was like one of the first DJs back in 1979.
Yeah.
You know, and our music back then, when you had a word that just sounded like a cuss word, I mean, they'd be all over you. And I
Yeah.
remember when they were telling me, Benny, you can't play this music. I'm, do whatever. You're crazy. You're
Yeah.
tripping. You know,
Yeah.
whatever. Man, I wish I can go back in time.
Yeah.
I wish I can go back in time and change it because I didn't see
It was a way.
how this music influences generations. You know.
Because even I mean, look at like how a while ago, they're like having a pot leaf, like Dr. Dre's pot leaf on his album cover was like a really big deal. But then like 2019, I think like Molly Percocet was like the leading one. But I don't even know if like, you know, it was a lot of people that had to do with that. You know, it was a whole movement. I mean, now we're seeing another cultural movement, which is I think the trans stuff, and it's just
Yeah.
like everywhere all the time trans stuff, and I'm just always like, you know, I can't even go to Target without even being reminded of it. Oh my gosh.
It's all part of the agenda. It's all coming out all at once.
Yeah.
There's no holding back right now. You can see it's going full force. So
Yeah.
this is all a plan. This is not by accident. It's all a plan.
It's a
just
wave.
Look, just look at Budweiser. Look at Nike. Look
Right.
at all these organizations. They all are in on it. They all know what's going on.
I mean, my question is, do they profit off of it? Do they profit off of doing this?
I don't
Like,
think it's about profiting. I think it's about changing the culture. And these are people that probably don't like our country that are behind it. And I
Yeah.
think they want to change the dynamics of what our country is about. They are trying to weaken our country. Who knows? There's probably money coming in from China, from Soros, from a lot of people who don't like our country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're basically pulling down our country, taking down our country from the inside without a war. I mean, there is a war happening. We don't
Yeah.
know that there's a war happening, but it's happening with our children.
yeah.
And so people
a
don't even
spiritual war.
people don't even realize it.
Not to mention, I remember you guys telling me about something a while ago that was like people coming into this country and then just like buying up land and buying up houses. What is that? Can you
Yes.
what's going on with all that?
Well, even like a lot of the lands, you know, you got China that's been buying a whole lot of lands out here, especially in California.
Yeah.
You know,
BlackRock is
Yeah.
one of the
Right.
big organizations. There's a lot of organizations that are formed, and they're from other countries that we don't even know who they are, and they're coming in and buying up a lot of the land, and who knows for what? I don't know if it's for
Yeah.
the farming. They're look at what they're doing with the vaccine. What they did. They're. I just saw an article that my friend posted on my page about how they're putting some kind of vaccine in our plants right now.
in the seeds.
And in the seeds to change, basically trying to still force us to take some kind of vaccine without us
Yeah,
not knowing
exactly.
within, in our food. And
Yeah.
so they're changing the way our food is being made. I mean, you're talking about farm fish. You're talking about what is it? Bill Gates is talking about making some kind of man-made meat or
Right,
something
they've
like that.
been doing that,
So they're
yeah.
talking about all these things that are not really natural. They're not coming from nature.
Yeah.
And so it's just a lot of really evil stuff behind it. A lot of just if
Yeah.
it's either evil if you believe in God, and if you don't believe in God, then it's just a lot of really demented people that are
Yeah.
just trying to change our country from what it once was, and
Yeah.
they're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell people, look at the fall of Rome. You
Yeah.
just take that for example and learn from that. Learn from history. But there's those who would rather change history, but they want to change it because they want to set their own narrative. They think that they can change the future. But going back into scripture, not to get all biblical, but the Bible does say in the last days that there's going to be the devil's going to release all of his demons, and things are going to happen rapidly, and that's why you're seeing things happen rapidly.
Yeah.
It was a slow pace, but in the last days, they'll all be released and boom. That's
Yeah.
why when I'm in politics and I know I'm around people who are new to politics and they'll be in tears or crying about certain issues, I'm like, hey, we all know how the story ends.
Yeah.
We know we're going to face this. But at the end of the day, not everybody knows how the story ends. And it's our job to share that with them.
Yeah.
So let's tell them about our history. Let's tell them about what we've learned. Let's tell them about what we're living today. And hopefully they'll open up their eyes. We plant a seed. and God to take over. The Holy Spirit would take over from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I that's also my perspective on it too, and I just think that's the only way to approach this right now is with that mindset, because I mean, otherwise you're just gonna be eaten alive by it, you know, because it's just like everybody, like even if you don't have an opinion, even if you're just like totally moderate, you now have an opinion, you like have a very strong opinion, so that's what we're seeing, and it's just like, okay, like even the quiet people are guilty right now, so just follow God. That's also, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get super preachy. But.
Yeah. I mean,
There's a lot of evil that's just happening everywhere. You're just looking at like the shootings that happened at the
goodness, I
in
know.
Texas. You know, all the people that were killed there, and then you look at what happened in New York with the subway situation. So
Wait,
we
what
ha-
happened with that? I don't know about that. What is that?
you had a transient he actually had an active warrant out for him, been arrested several times on the subway,
Oh, boy.
has offended and violated women and men, you know, been in and out of jail. So apparently he walks into a subway. He's pretty much acting the way he's always has.
Yeah.
And a Marine, you know, stepped in and put him down, put him into a chokehold. But
Okay.
so now, I mean, thank God that here you had somebody who should be praised,
Right.
you know, as a hero. Now they're trying to make him the criminal. And now
Right,
you
yeah.
got these riots that are taking place in New York and other areas for somebody who has a long criminal history, somebody who was in the wrong,
Yeah.
somebody who should not praise, because when you it's like they're idolizing people who commit crimes. What happens when you put somebody up like that? You idolize them. What's the
Yeah.
younger generation going to do?
Yeah.
Idolize exactly what that person did.
Well,
and
I mean,
it's dangerous.
Even today there was that stuff about Trump, like some sort of, what was it, sexual assault or something like that.
Right.
But
That he was found guilty.
yeah, what wait, can we talk about that for a second? What is that? What was that? I'm honestly like, I want to know.
I
because,
missed
like,
that one. So
I honestly don't know much about it. I did see the headline that he was found guilty of sexual like abuse, not rape.
Yeah.
Is it not rape? So
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
All I saw was just the headline itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it myself, and I was kind of really didn't really get it because one of the things they said that he was found guilty of not rape, but I guess of dragging her name through the mud. What do you call slander?
Or like defamation, kind of.
And so I
Those are very
didn't
different things.
quite understand. So he was found guilty of slander. I really don't know for certain, but I'm my thought was, okay, so he was found guilty of slander, but not of rape. So
Yeah.
so when somebody's talking bad about you, saying that you raped them, and then you're charging back at them, and you're going to put them down because you're going to be like, I didn't rape you.
Yeah.
And so he's not allowed to speak up for what she's saying about him raping her. But when he speaks up now, it's slander. So that was just kind of strange and twisted to me.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting for them to put Joe Biden through trial.
Boy,
with
the
Biden family.
Well, no,
Yeah.
well, there is a woman that also claimed that she was basically molested or raped
my
by him.
goodness.
Not physically completely raped, but he
He was
apparently
creepy.
did some things to her too.
That's terrible.
And so it's like, you talk about a lot of different things. Joe Biden taking a shower with his daughter, and his daughter even saying in
Right.
her,
That's a little weird.
in her diary saying that it was probably inappropriate.
Right.
So I don't
Yeah.
understand why all the pass is on one side.
I think it's a double standards
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the people are just sick and tired of. Like, wrong is wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
If you committed,
exactly.
I don't care who you are. Wrong is wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we had enough of the double standards, and I think that the 2024 election is going to show that.
Yeah.
Because honestly, who walks on water other than the Lord?
Yeah, for
None of
real,
us,
that's what I
right?
would say.
So we all have faults.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're going to be in a position of power, okay, admit your faults, take some responsibility for it. And at the end of the day, we, the people, have the power to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we change things? Vote differently.
Yeah.
I'm not saying vote Republican or vote Democrat. Vote differently. If like in California, if you're happy with the way California is because of who you voted for, then stay in California. But most of the people who are leaving California didn't vote for the leadership in California. So they're leaving California.
Yeah.
We're here as a group saying we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
California is where we were born and raised. This is our state, and we're going to fight to bring it back.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I'm here.
Well, yeah, and I think that, especially being in California, just talking about, like, stuff always being shoved in your face, and I personally love California. I don't have any reason to leave, so I just like it here, But I do see that, and I do think they are just trying to slander Trump right now because, I looked into that, too, and it was just like...
everything at the wall right now.
Well-
Anything that can stick, and it's just kind of sad. Because they're wasting our money. It's our tax money.
Yeah.
And so that's what's annoying to me. Because you know what? If you're going to waste my tax money, I want my tax money to also be wasted on going after Joe Biden and his son and all the things that they're doing. So it's like, you know what? Don't just use my money. It's like the unions that take your money and they only use it for liberal agenda.
Well,
it's
they're
like
also-
it's my money
yeah.
too. I want it to go to what I want it to go to.
It's the agenda, too,
Yeah.
and it's not just the money, but it's the time, Like, think about how
Yes.
much time... they're just trying to, like, fearmonger people, I swear, because...
Exactly.
You hit the nail on the head.
Exactly.
That was a strategy. The strategy going back to the unions and the Democratic Party, and I always say Democratic Party, but it was a powerful people who are just far leftist,
Yeah.
was fear and intimidation. So, and you push people with fear and intimidate them to the point where they no longer feel their vote is relevant.
Yeah.
And that's why the numbers of people who vote has gone down. And I always tell people, you're falling right into their plan.
Oh, my goodness.
Because when the unions did this, I realized, I said, okay, wait a minute. So you're telling me if we can push people to the point where we have 33,000 members, but we only have 50,000 people coming to our meetings. 50 people coming to our meetings.
Yeah.
So it's easier to control 50 people and satisfy 50 people than it is the 33,000.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
Yeah, exactly.
It makes no sense to me, but that's what we're dealing with.
So actually, going back to the plan that you were talking about, what stage of the plan are we in? Like, do we have like a certain stage we're in, or what are we seeing?
The only level of government that they do not control is the Supreme Court. And when I was running for Congress as a Democrat and I got invited to the Republican convention and I spoke to some of the leadership there, and they had asked me, who do you think will be the next presidential candidate? This was before they endorsed Trump. And I said, Donald Trump. And they looked at me like, what? Half the people on the table got up and walked away. This was the Republican convention.
Yeah.
The others stood there and said, okay, Benito, tell me. So I showed them my platform. And I said, see this platform right here? That's what people want. Very conservative, pro-life, pro-traditional marriage, helping the working class, so on and so forth. I said, but the next president is going to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices at a minimum. Yeah. I said, so that's important. If he doesn't get in, once they take control of the Supreme Court, we're done.
Yeah.
Because they control the courts, not in every state. But you look at the blue and red states, figure it out.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, I'm not blaming just one party. If you're not happy with the way you're living in your community and in your state and in your city, then go to the leadership and find out who it is that's leading you in that direction.
Get involved.
Exactly. Get involved, because if you
that's
don't,
so true.
PTA, communities, you have to get involved. People need to get involved, and people, they get so busy in their livelihood, but still you see them spend a lot of time watching all the ball games and doing this and that, but just to get them to spend an hour a week getting involved, go to a PTA, become a council member.
So it's actually pretty easy, isn't it?
Yeah, but start with the PTA. That's probably the easiest place to start. But, start going, getting involved with your council members and finding out what's going on in your community. Just your direct community. Just get involved with that, because really that's where the changes come. And, it's not going to change until we get involved. Find out what's being taught. I think with this COVID, a lot of people, a lot of parents were shocked to see what their children and how their children were being taught. Yeah. So this opened up a lot of eyes for parents. Yeah. So right now, so many kids are being homeschooled. Thank God. Yeah. And so, as they say, what was meant for bad ended up being for good in that way.
It's a backlash too, because it's like, I mean the pendulum always swings back. I used to say that, and I think we're starting to see like the fruition of that right now.
Yes.
No, yeah, and we're in the last stages. We're in the last stages where they're ready to get that presidential candidate. I won't say who I thought it was going to be, but that individual made some bad mistakes. I do believe that one of the gentlemen that I grew up with would probably be the first Latino presidential candidate that they're going to try to push.
Okay.
And I'm holding back. There's a lot of us. I'm not the only one that has the information. There's a lot of us that have the information that we have. So when that time comes, we can make sure that doesn't happen. Because if it happens, this country's going to fall. You know, I can guarantee you that. And it's sad to say that because I'm talking about my own gente, you know, my own people that I really admired, you know, that I thought, you know, I never was going to be that person to run for office because I didn't have the education. These guys are MIT grads. They got all the education. And a friend of mine, the one that told me, he says one time, he goes, Benny, look at my office. He goes, you see all them degrees I have right there? All that means, he said, is that I went to school to learn all of that. He says, you've lived it all.
Yeah.
He says, so what do you think brings more power? And that's when I got involved in politics.
Yeah.
You know, that's when I said, okay, I got to get more involved. And that's why you guys have the Gen Z.
Yeah.
You guys are the future. You know, so people who are out there listening, help this group. You know, what you ladies are doing is powerful. The conversations that you're having, we're following, is powerful. People are listening.
Yes.
Everywhere I go to speak, I talk about the Gen Z and what you ladies are doing. And people, you should see, some of them are even in tears.
Wow.
Because you're bringing hope.
Yeah.
You know, there was no more hope. People felt like, what do I do? I have nothing. No, so we're giving them something to do.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well,
and
yeah,
that-
because there is a lot of outreach opportunities that exist right now, but how many young people are using that to go into politics? Like, not that many. I mean, like, you know, literally, I mean, Ellie, like, haven't you, like, gotten certain responses when you tell people that you're, like, in politics?
Yeah, I get a lot of different responses. I know that some of them, not told to my face, but were like, hey, you're basically wasting your time here. I mean, you're wasting your childhood. You know, you would have
ridiculous.
rather, you know, done other things. Maybe,
I get
I
told
don't
the
go
same
out-
for being a young mother.
know-
I get told that I threw my youth away too. It's just like, like you're what you're doing is so great, you know.
They don't
Yeah.
understand. They don't understand the value of it. And that's just it. And one day they're going to look back because it has cost us.
Yeah.
Right.
It does cost you. You
Yeah.
do have to sacrifice. But what are you sacrificing?
right.
And who are you sacrificing
also,
for?
like what you were just saying too is it's not even as hard as you think to get involved. Like let's what are other ways?
Yeah.
Even just what can you do tomorrow?
Parents, just go to your children's PTA meetings, get involved, demand. I am not even sure if they're still doing a lot of this on Zoom. That's an easy scapegoat for a lot of these people that are on the PTA and the city council to not be responsible because they don't have to answer to parents.
Yeah.
We need everything to be in person. It all needs to be back in person again. It doesn't need to be on Zoom anymore. But parents, everybody just needs to get involved. That's the number one thing. The other thing, just like Benny says, that a lot of the older people when they hear about the Gen Z that we put together, that they are shocked, they're surprised because all they see also when we go to these meetings are a lot of older people.
Yeah.
And so they love the fact that we have all these young people that are wanting to be involved. So the other thing I would say is parents and grandparents, speak to your children, especially the ones that have come from communist countries like Cuba, like Venezuela. Speak to your family, speak to your friends. And make them understand, try to get them to understand why communism and socialism is not a good idea. It's very bad. And, for some reason, our schools have changed things around to make it seem like it is good. I don't know how that happened. Well, I do know how it happened, but it's happened. And so, people just need to get involved in that way where we're speaking to our kids more. The other thing is we have you guys here with the Gen Z, but we need more people here with the Gen Z.
Right.
We need more people involved. So if you want to get involved with your children, your grandchildren, nieces and nephews, friends, whoever it is that you can find that has the same values. And it's not a Republican or Democrat value. It is a God first value, family second
family,
value. And if those are your values, get a hold of us. Get involved with us. And you can be here on this. This is just at the beginning stages.
Absolutely.
We don't know how big this can be.
No, that's so
And
true.
so you know what? Call us up, send us an email, send us a text. And get your children, talk to your children, sit at the kitchen table, make a nice meal, and sit at the kitchen table 2 or 3 times a week and talk about the current events, talk about what's going on, and talk about why why you as a parent see things a certain way, instill these values into your children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that one of the problems is that there's a breakdown. We don't have a lot of fathers in the family anymore, and that's just
Yeah.
horrible because we just demonize our men.
Oh, I know.
And
Isn't that
so
awful?
you know what? More women are graduating from colleges now. Men are ending up in
that's-
prison. They're ending up on the
Oh,
streets and
no.
drugs. And this is a plan. This is a plan, and it's like people wake up because this
Yes.
is being done on purpose. You think that
Oh, it's
border's
true,
open?
yeah.
You think that border's open by accident? That border is open on purpose. You
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that fentanyl's like coming here by accident? It's not coming here by accident. Get involved,
Money,
talk
money,
to
money.
your children. People have these conversations. You know what? It's okay to debate and it's okay to disagree. But you know what? Always still love your family. Always still
Yes,
love your friends.
absolutely.
You know what? We're not going to agree on everything.
And we
but
don't have to
y-
fight over
yeah.
it, yeah.
And it's like, but
Yeah.
the things that we can agree on, let's make those things strong. And I think most people can agree on having a mom and a dad in the family is a great thing.
Yeah.
So you know what? Let's make that strong. I think a lot of people still believe in God. You know what? And if you don't, well, that's your choice also. But if you do, instill that into your children. Talk to your children about it. Get back to church.
Absolutely.
Find a great church. There's so many great churches out there.
Right.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't even realize how much they need it until they start going and they
Oh,
realize,
yeah.
wow,
That's
this
the
is
truth, yeah,
like a
for real.
counseling. This is like therapy. And it's like, you know what, get to a church, find a church and just get involved with your church.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you'll be like, God, I was really missing a lot of this
Yeah.
that they're
Yeah.
taking out of the schools. They want to
Right.
take God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. They want to take God off the
Yeah, it's
dollar.
the subtle
They
things.
want to,
It's
yeah.
the subtle,
and
subtle.
So they're
Like, it's just literally-
subtly deteriorating our country as much as they can, deteriorating God out of our lives, the men out of our lives, and you know what? It's just making us weak.
Yeah.
It is.
You
Yeah,
know,
it is.
without having
And-
our men in the forefront, we are going to just fall apart.
Yeah.
Our men are very important.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
unfortunate what's happening to the men.
Yeah, and that's why we also started the California Hispanic Alliance.
Yeah.
You know, that's another organization because it is costly to do what it is we're doing, and we
Yes.
are not rich by any means. We have been blessed by God with the family, with the Monroe family, who has been able to sponsor a lot of what we're doing because they believe in what we're doing. Hardworking family who created their business by picking up aluminum cans and plastic bottles,
Yeah.
and now they're one of the largest recycling businesses in the country. You know,
Yeah.
those kind of people are the kind of people that God has been bringing forward. So those of you that are listening, go to the California Hispanic Alliance.
Right,
Ladies, give them a plug in for your group,
Yes,
how they can
yes.
connect with you guys.
We are gonna wrap up here.
Very soon.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much to our guests. And before we wrap up,
Yeah.
Ellie, do you want to give some like maybe the website and the Instagram?
So I believe the website's 180movement.org. That
Yeah.
should be it. If not, you can definitely go through our Instagram, right, and go at 180.shift or TikTok 180shift, and that also is on Twitter as well. And then from there, you can get links to our website and then other resources that we have there.
Yeah.
And from our website, you can also email us. You can contact us if you have any questions, and then also join our website or
Yes.
join our movement
that.
and
Follow
fill out.
us.
Yeah,
And
follow us. Yeah.
Facebook. What is it? Facebook.
Facebook, I'm not
Is
quite
it
sure about
Tara
that.
I think
and-
It's Tara,
Tara
and
and
Ellie.
Ellie.
Yeah,
it's Tara and
yeah,
Ellie.
yeah.
That's ours.
And this is a logo I think you will see, right?
Yes,
that's it,
yes,
right
There
there.
you go.
Yeah, this is the
Yes,
logo.
we all
You'll
got
see.
that. Yes.
So look for Tara and
We
Ellie.
didn't do that before the show. No, I just yeah.
You're gonna see it every single time.
But we only have 15 seconds, guys, and then it's gonna cut out. So
Get
just-
involved, people.
Yes,
Get involved. Help us
Don't
out.
be afraid to get involved.
Let's do it together.
Talk
Si
to
se
your
puede.
families, and it's not as hard as you think to get involved.
That's right.
So
See you
thank you
next
so much.
week.
We will see you next
Si se
week.
puede. God
Bye.
bless.
All right, 3, 2, 1. We still have a second.
Got through it.